Picture this: a gleaming glass skyscraper in downtown Boston. The afternoon sun catches on the polished brass lettering above the main entrance: Reynolds Financial Group. Inside the luxurious lobby, a middle-aged couple approaches the reception desk, documents clutched tightly in hand. They're here to apply for a loan, a second mortgage to help them through some difficult times. I'd love to know which corner of the globe you're watching from, and if this story speaks to you, make sure to subscribe. Tomorrow's video is one you absolutely can't miss. Welcome to Reynolds Financial. How may I help you today? The receptionist asks with a practiced smile. We have an appointment to discuss a loan application, the woman says, her voice carrying a hint of nervousness. The receptionist types something into her computer. Mr. and Mrs. Morris? Perfect. Please have a seat. Ms. Reynolds will be with you shortly. The couple freezes. Did you say Reynolds? The man asks, his face suddenly pale. Before the receptionist can respond, the elevator doors open, and out walks a confident woman in her mid-30s, impeccably dressed in a tailored navy suit. Her presence commands attention as she crosses the lobby. The couple stares in disbelief. It can't be Olivia? Mrs. Morris whispers, her voice barely audible. The woman turns, her expression shifting from professional detachment to shock as she recognizes the couple, her parents, standing in the lobby of her bank. The same parents who 15 years earlier had told her she'd never amount to anything. Boston, 2008, the Morris household in the working-class neighborhood of Dorchester was never quiet. Between her father's constant complaints about his warehouse job, her mother's fretting over bills, and her 3 younger siblings bickering over the single bathroom, Olivia Morris had learned to study with headphones on, music blasting to drown out the chaos. Tonight was worse than usual. At 18, Olivia sat at the kitchen table surrounded by college brochures, scholarship applications, and financial aid forms. Her parents argued in the living room, their voices carrying easily through the thin walls of their cramped apartment. College? For what? So she can rack up debt and come back here anyway? Her father's voice was gruff, dismissive. The warehouse is hiring. My buddy Steve can get her in next month after graduation. But she's smart, Tom. All her teachers say so, her mother countered, though her voice lacked conviction. Smart doesn't. Pay bills, Linda. Look at me. I was smart too. Fat lot of good it did. Olivia pressed her headphones tighter against her ears, but couldn't block out her father's next words. That girl's got her head in the clouds. Reynolds Financial Group? Investment banking? She's from Dorchester, for God's sake. People like us don't become bankers. Olivia's hand tightened around her pen until her knuckles turned white. The rejection letter from Boston University, her dream school, sat crumpled at the bottom of her backpack. She hadn't had the heart to tell her parents yet, though it hardly seemed to matter now. The partial scholarship she'd been offered wouldn't be enough, and her backup schools weren't much more affordable. Her father's voice rose again. I'm telling you, Linda, she's setting herself up for disappointment. Better she learns now. Life isn't some fairy tale where Dorchester kids end up with their names on buildings downtown. Olivia ripped off her headphones and stormed into the living room. I can hear you, you know. Her parents fell silent, her mother looking embarrassed while her father's expression hardened. Good, he said finally. Then maybe you're finally listening to reason instead of those counselors filling your head with nonsense. It's not nonsense, Olivia shot back. Ms. Chambers said with my grades. Ms. Chambers doesn't have to pay your bills or feed this family, her father interrupted. You think we can afford to send you to college. Your brother needs braces. The car's transmission is shot. Your sister's asthma medication costs a fortune. I can get loans, scholarships. I can work and end up buried in debt for what? Some fancy degree that doesn't guarantee a job? Her father's voice softened slightly, which somehow hurt more than his anger. Livy, I'm trying to protect you. Banking is for people born with connections, with money. Not for kids from neighborhoods like ours. Your father's right, honey, her mother added gently. We just don't want you to get hurt when things don't work out. You mean, when I fail? Olivia said flatly. Her father sighed. I mean when reality hits. Look, Steve says you can start at $16 an hour. That's good money right out of high school. In a few years, you could be a shift supervisor. I don't want to work at a warehouse, Olivia's voice cracked. I want more than that. There you go again with the attitude, her father said, his frustration returning. What's wrong with honest work? You think you're too good for it? Too good for what puts food on this table? That's not what I meant. You want the truth? Olivia, you're smart, but you're not special. Nobody is. Life isn't about following dreams, it's about surviving. The sooner you accept that, the better off you'll be. The words hit like physical blows. Olivia blinked back tears, refusing to let them fall. Her mother reached for her hand. We love you, sweetheart. We just don't want you setting yourself up for heartbreak. Olivia pulled away. You don't believe in me. You never have. We're being realistic, her father insisted. You'll never be successful chasing fantasies. The odds are stacked against kids like you, like us. Watch me, Olivia whispered, then grabbed her jacket and headed for the door. Where are you going? Her mother called after her. To study at Jenna's. Don't wait up. The cold March air bit at her face as she walked aimlessly through the neighborhood. She didn't actually have plans with Jenna Thompson, her best friend since third grade, but she needed space to think. The truth was, Olivia had already begun to doubt herself. The rejection from BU had shaken her confidence, and her parents' words only reinforced her fears. Maybe they were right. Maybe kids from Dorchester didn't become investment bankers. Maybe she was fooling herself. By the time she reached the public library, it was nearly closing time. She hesitated at the entrance, then pushed through the doors. The librarian, Mrs. Chen, looked up from her desk and smiled. Cutting it close tonight, Olivia. We close in 20 minutes. I know. I just needed somewhere quiet to think. Mrs. Chen studied her face. Everything okay at home? Olivia shrugged, not trusting herself to speak without crying. Come on, the librarian said, standing up. Help me shelve these last few books while you tell me what's wrong. As they moved through the quiet aisles, Olivia found herself pouring out everything. The BU rejection, her parents' lack of faith, her fading dreams. And maybe they're right, she concluded, sliding a book into place. Maybe I'm being ridiculous, thinking I could ever work at a place like Reynolds Financial. Mrs. Chen was silent for a moment. Did I ever tell you about my son, David? Olivia shook her head. When we came to this country, he was 10 years old. Didn't speak a word of English. My husband and I worked 3 jobs between us to make ends meet. She shelved another book. David wanted to be a doctor. Our relatives thought we were crazy to encourage him, said we were setting him up for disappointment, that immigrants like us should focus on practical goals. What happened to him? Mrs. Chen smiled. He's Dr. Chen now, pediatric surgeon at Mass General. But that's different. He was obviously brilliant. So are you, Olivia. I've watched you grow up in this library. I've seen how you analyze problems, how you never give up. She handed Olivia the last book. Success isn't about where you start. It's about refusing to let others define your limits. Olivia placed the book on the shelf, considering Mrs. Chen's words. BU wasn't your only option, was it? The librarian asked. No, I got into Bunker Hill Community College, but it's not exactly the direct path to investment banking. A lot of love and effort went into bringing this story to life. If you're enjoying it, we'd be so grateful if you'd subscribe to our channel. Now, back to where we left off. Who says there's only one path? My son didn't go straight to medical school either. For the first time that day, Olivia felt a glimmer of hope. What are you saying? I'm saying paths can wind and still reach their destination. Maybe you start at community college, then transfer. Maybe you find internships and mentors along the way. But you don't give up on your dream because the straightest path is blocked. As the library closed, Mrs. Chen pressed a book into Olivia's hands. Take this home. It might help. It was a biography of Janet Yellen, who would later become the first female Secretary of the Treasury, though neither of them knew that future yet. What mattered was Yellen's story of persistence, of overcoming barriers in the male-dominated world of finance. That night, Olivia read until dawn. By morning, she had made her decision. She would accept the offer from Bunker Hill Community College. She would work part-time to help with expenses, and she would find a way, any way, to break into the world of finance. When she announced her plans at breakfast, her father sighed deeply. "You're still on this banking kick? Livy, the warehouse position won't be open forever." "I'm going to Bunker Hill," she said firmly. "I've done the math. With my scholarship and working 20 hours a week, I can make it work." Her mother looked concerned. "But sweetie, even after community college, I'll transfer to a 4-year school. I'll get internships, I'll network. I'll find a way." Her father's expression hardened. "You're making a mistake." "Maybe, but it's my mistake to make." The atmosphere at home grew increasingly tense as graduation approached. Olivia's determination was met with thinly veiled disapproval. Her father stopped mentioning her future altogether, while her mother made hesitant attempts to get her to reconsider, pointing out newspaper articles about student loan debt and unemployment rates for college graduates. Jenna, meanwhile, was headed to the University of Massachusetts on a full scholarship. Though supportive, even she didn't fully understand Olivia's obsession with finance. "Why banking, anyway?" she asked one afternoon as they sat on the steps of Olivia's apartment building. "You could do anything." Olivia hesitated, unsure how to explain. "Remember when we were kids and my dad lost his job at the factory? Remember how scared everyone was?" Jenna nodded. "I never want to feel that helpless again. It's not just money. It's security. It's choices. And people like my parents, hard-working people, they work their whole lives and still can't get ahead because they don't understand how to make money work for them instead of just working for money." She picked at a loose thread on her jeans. "I want to understand it all. Investing, markets, how wealth is actually built. And then I want to help people like my parents navigate that world." Jenna bumped her shoulder affectionately. "Well, when you're running your own investment firm, I expect preferential treatment." "Deal," Olivia laughed, allowing herself to imagine that future just for a moment. By the time fall semester began, Olivia had secured a work-study position in the college's financial aid office and a weekend job waiting tables at a local diner. Between classes, work, and studying, she barely had time to sleep, let alone engage in the typical college social life. Her first accounting professor, Dr. Marcus Parker, noticed her intensity during the 3rd week of class when she stayed after, to ask detailed questions about a concept that wouldn't be covered until later in the semester. "Ms. Morris, most students are still struggling with the basics of debits and credits. Why the interest in corporate valuation methods already?" "I'm trying to get ahead," she admitted. "I want to transfer to a strong finance program eventually, hopefully with enough scholarships to make it affordable." Dr. Parker, a former investment banker himself before turning to teaching, studied her thoughtfully. "Ambitious. What's your end goal?" "Investment banking. Eventually, I want to start my own firm." He didn't laugh or dismiss her, which she had half expected. Instead, he nodded slowly. "Challenging path, extremely competitive field, but not impossible with the right preparation and connections." "Connections are the problem," Olivia said. "I don't have any." "Not yet," he corrected. "Tell you what, there's a student investment club I advise. We manage a small portfolio with a grant from a local foundation. Real money, real decisions, good practical experience. You should join." That club became Olivia's lifeline. While most of the members were older students with more experience, She absorbed everything like a sponge: market analysis, investment, strategies, financial modeling. She worked twice as hard to catch up, staying late after meetings to ask questions and practicing financial models until her eyes burned, Dr. Parker noticed. Just before winter break, he approached her with an opportunity. The Boston Investment Association has a scholarship program for promising students from underrepresented backgrounds in finance. One essay, one interview. The money isn't life-changing, $5,000, but the mentorship program that comes with it could be. The deadline is next month. Olivia spent her entire winter break crafting her application essay. She wrote about growing up watching her parents struggle financially despite working themselves to exhaustion. She wrote about wanting to democratize financial knowledge and create wealth-building opportunities for working-class families. She revised it 27 times. When the email came in February announcing she was a finalist, Olivia could hardly breathe. The interview would be at the Boston Investment Association headquarters, a gleaming office building downtown that housed several prestigious financial firms, including a regional office of Reynolds Financial Group. She spent her entire month's savings on a proper interview suit from a consignment shop. Mrs. Chen helped her practice interview questions. Dr. Parker coached her on industry terminology. Even Jenna pitched in, lending Olivia her mother's leather portfolio to carry her resume. The day of the interview, Olivia stood outside the imposing building, her reflection distorted in its mirrored surface. For a moment, her father's voice echoed in her head. "People like us don't become bankers." She straightened her shoulders and walked through the revolving door. The interview panel consisted of 5 people, 3 men and 2 women, all with decades of experience in finance. They asked pointed questions about her background, her understanding of markets, her career goals. Olivia answered with a confidence she didn't entirely feel, drawing on everything she'd learned in her classes and the investment club. The final question came from an elegant woman with silver-streaked hair pulled into a tight bun. "Ms. Morris, I'll be blunt. Your academic record is impressive, but this field values pedigree. Most successful candidates come from target schools and have family connections in the industry. What makes you think you can compete in this environment?" Olivia felt a flash of heat rise in her cheeks. It was the question she had been dreading, the same doubt her father had raised, just phrased more politely. "With respect, Ms. Harrington," she said, having memorized each panelist's name, "I believe my background is an asset, not a liability. I understand how financial decisions impact working families because I've lived it. I've watched my parents work 60-hour weeks and still struggle to get approved for a car loan." She leaned forward slightly. "The clients you serve aren't all from privileged backgrounds. Some are like my family, trying to navigate a system that wasn't designed with them in mind. I can bridge that gap." A slight smile touched Ms. Harrington's lip. "Bold answer, Ms. Morris." 2 weeks later, Olivia received the news. She had won the scholarship and mentorship opportunity. Her mentor would be none other than Catherine Harrington, managing director at Reynolds Financial Group, and the woman who had asked that final question. Spring 2010. The Reynolds Financial Group office occupied 3 floors of the downtown building. Catherine Harrington's corner office overlooked Boston Harbor, a view Olivia tried not to gawk at during their first mentorship meeting. "Coffee?" Catherine offered, gesturing to a sleek espresso machine. "Yes, thank you," Olivia replied, reminding herself to project confidence. This wasn't charity. She'd earned this opportunity. Catherine prepared 2 cups with practiced efficiency. "Your essay mentioned democratizing financial knowledge. Expand on that." No small talk then. Olivia appreciated the directness. "Growing up, I watched my parents make financial decisions based on fear rather than strategy," she explained. "They avoided investing because they didn't understand it. They paid high interest rates because they didn't know they could negotiate. Money was always a source of anxiety rather than a tool. Catherine nodded, her expression revealing nothing. I believe financial literacy shouldn't be a luxury, Olivia continued. People like my parents work incredibly hard but can't get ahead because they don't understand how capital markets function or how to make their money work for them. Noble sentiment, Catherine said, sipping her coffee. But Reynolds doesn't typically serve the demographic you're describing. Our minimum investment requirement is $250,000. That's exactly the problem, Olivia countered, surprising herself. With her boldness. Financial expertise is gatekept for those who already have wealth. A hint of a smile crossed Catherine's face. Are you criticizing the business model of the firm providing your scholarship, Ms. Morris? Olivia felt her cheeks warm. Not criticizing, identifying an opportunity. Catherine's smile grew more pronounced. Good answer. Tell me, what specifically do you hope to gain from this mentorship? Industry knowledge I can't get from textbooks, strategic networking opportunities, and honest feedback about what it will take for someone with my background to succeed in this field. Fair enough. Catherine set down her cup. Let's start with some uncomfortable truths. This industry is still dominated by men who attended elite universities and come from wealthy families. As a woman from Dorchester with a community college background, you'll face prejudice on multiple fronts. Olivia nodded, appreciating the candor. That said, Catherine continued, banking is ultimately about results. If you can deliver consistent returns and bring in clients, most firms will overlook your pedigree. Eventually, your challenge is getting the opportunity to prove yourself in the first place. That's where I was hoping you could help, Olivia admitted. I can open some doors, but you'll have to walk through them on your own merit. Catherine pulled out a leather-bound planner. Here's what I propose. We'll meet twice monthly. I'll assign readings and projects to supplement your formal education. You'll attend selected industry events with me, and most importantly, I'll help you secure a suitable internship for this summer. The mentorship proved even more valuable than Olivia had hoped. Catherine was demanding but fair, assigning challenging case studies and introducing Olivia to key industry figures at various networking events. At one such gathering, Catherine pulled her aside after watching her capably discuss market trends with a senior portfolio manager. You're a natural at this, Catherine observed. Many people with fancy degrees can't explain complex concepts so clearly. Thank you, Olivia said, pleased by the rare compliment. There's an analyst internship opening in our fixed income division this summer, Catherine mentioned casually. Normally reserved for juniors at target schools, but I've suggested they consider you. Olivia's heart raced. I'd be honored for the chance to interview. Catherine raised an eyebrow. Interview? I've already vouched for you. The position is yours if you want it. I do. Absolutely. Don't thank me yet, Catherine warned. It's paid, but barely. The hours are brutal. And my colleagues will be watching to see if my faith in you is misplaced. I won't let you down, Olivia promised. When she shared the news at home, the response was predictably mixed. An internship? That's what this fancy mentorship got you? Her father scoffed over dinner. You're giving up a full-time summer job for that? It's at Reynolds Financial, Dad, one of the top investment firms in Boston. And what does it pay? Olivia hesitated. $18 an hour. Her father snorted. You could make more at the warehouse. It's not about the money right now, Olivia insisted. It's about the opportunity, the connections, the experience on my resume. Resume connections, he mimicked. Meanwhile, the real bills need paying. He pushed back from the table. When you're done playing banker, there'll still be a time card. Waiting at the warehouse. Her mother waited until he left the room before speaking softly. He means well, Livy. He just doesn't understand this world you're entering. Do you? Olivia asked. Her mother hesitated. Not really, but I see how hard you're working. I just hope. She trailed off. Hope what? That you won't be disappointed if it doesn't work out the way you planned. The internship proved more challenging than even Catherine had warned. Olivia typically arrived at 7 a.m. and rarely left before 9 p.m. She fetched coffee, made copies, compiled research, and built financial models until her eyes burned. Most of the other interns came from Harvard, MIT, and other prestigious universities. They had summered in the Hamptons and gone to boarding schools with the children of Fortune 500 CEOs. During her lunch breaks, often just 15 minutes snatched at her desk, Olivia studied their behavior, noting how they spoke, dressed, and carried themselves. She observed the subtle social cues she'd never learned growing up in Dorchester, which fork to use at client dinners, how to pronounce the names of exclusive vacation destinations, when to speak and when to remain silent in meetings. One fellow intern, Trevor Williams, noticed her watching. "You're like an anthropologist," he commented one evening as they both worked late. "Always observing." Olivia felt her cheeks warm. "Is it that obvious?" "Only to someone paying attention." He leaned back in his chair. "You know, you don't have to try so hard to fit in. Your work is solid, better than most of these trust fund kids." "Easy for you to say," Olivia retorted. "You went to Andover and Yale." "True," he acknowledged with a good-natured smile. "But my father's an English professor and my mother's a violinist with the symphony. I'm here on scholarships and student loans, same as you will be." Olivia felt a twinge of embarrassment for her assumption. "I didn't realize." "Most people don't. That's banking for you. Everyone's performing a role." He nodded toward the glass-walled conference room where senior bankers were working late. "Half those VPs come from modest backgrounds, too. They just learned to code switch." "Code switch?" "Moving between different cultural contexts. You're already doing it. Speaking one way at home in Dorchester and another way here." Olivia considered this. "I thought I had to become someone else to succeed here." "No," Trevor said thoughtfully. "You just need to become a more fluid version of yourself. The trick isn't forgetting where you came from, it's leveraging it as an advantage." That conversation marked a turning point. Instead of trying to erase her background, Olivia began integrating it into her professional identity. During a project on municipal bonds, she drew on her knowledge of how infrastructure investment affected working-class neighborhoods like hers. When analyzing retail stocks, she offered insights about consumer behavior among price-sensitive shoppers that her privileged colleagues had never considered. Catherine noticed the change. "You found your voice," she observed during their midsummer evaluation. "Your analysis has depth that others lack." "I stopped trying to be like everyone else," Olivia explained. "Good. Banking has enough carbon copies. Your background gives you perspective. Others here don't have." Catherine slid a folder across her desk. "That's why I'm recommending you for our scholarship program for your transfer to a 4-year university." Olivia's eyes widened as she opened the folder. Inside was information about a Reynolds financial scholarship that would cover tuition and expenses for qualified students transferring from community colleges to complete their bachelor's degrees. This would change everything," she whispered. "You'd still need to maintain a 3.7 GPA and return for internships," Catherine cautioned. "And I'd recommend Northeastern's finance program. Their co-op structure would give you additional work experience." "I don't know what to say," Olivia said, emotion tightening her throat. "Say you'll make it count," Catherine replied simply. That fall, with Catherine's recommendation and her stellar performance in the internship, Olivia received the Reynolds Scholarship and transferred to Northeastern University as a finance major. The scholarship covered tuition and provided a modest stipend for living expenses, enough that she could reduce her work hours and focus more on her studies. She continued meeting with Catherine monthly, and each summer she returned to Reynolds for increasingly responsible internship positions. By her senior year, she was functioning at the level of a first-year analyst, building complex financial models, and contributing substantively to client presentations. Throughout this time, her relationship with her parents remained strained. They took pride in her academic achievements but remained skeptical of her career path. Her father still occasionally left warehouse job applications on the kitchen table, just in case this banking thing doesn't pan out. During her final semester at Northeastern in 2013, Olivia interviewed with several investment banks, including Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley. The offers came in, impressive packages for a new graduate, with starting salaries that made her father's eyebrows raise when she mentioned the numbers. To everyone's surprise, including Catherine's, Olivia turned them all down. "Explain your thinking," Catherine demanded when Olivia informed her of the decision. "I'm grateful for the offers," Olivia said carefully, "but they're not aligned with what I really want to do, which is help people like my parents navigate the financial system, create wealth-building opportunities for working families." Catherine leaned back in her chair, studying her protégé. "So all this training was for what? To become a financial advisor at some retail bank?" "No," Olivia said firmly. "I want to launch a specialized division focused on financial empowerment. For moderate-income clients. Comprehensive services that combine education with tailored investment strategies." "And where do you plan to do this?" Olivia took a deep breath. "Here, at Reynolds." Catherine's expression was unreadable. "We don't serve that market." "Not yet," Olivia countered. "But you could. The mass affluent segment, households with $100,000 to $250,000 in investable assets, is underserved by firms like Reynolds, but still substantial enough to be profitable with the right approach. And you believe you can make this work?" "I've prepared a business case." Olivia pulled a presentation from her bag and handed it to Catherine. Projected revenues, customer acquisition costs, service model, everything. Catherine paged through the document, her expression still neutral. "This is thorough." "I've been working on it for 2 years, Olivia admitted. "Ever since our conversation about democratizing financial expertise." Catherine closed the presentation. "The executive committee would never approve this. Too unconventional. Too risky." Olivia's heart sank. "However," Catherine continued, "I happen to have discretionary authority to pilot new initiatives under a certain budget threshold." Olivia looked up, hope flickering. "I'll give you 2 years to prove this concept," Catherine said firmly. "Small team, limited marketing budget. If you hit the targets in this presentation, we discuss expansion. If not, we shut it down, and you join the regular analyst program. Deal?" "Deal," Olivia agreed instantly. "One more thing," Catherine added. "If we're really serving working families, we need to be where they are, not in this downtown tower." "I have a contact at a community bank in Dorchester. They have some vacant office space we could lease for this pilot." Olivia felt a rush of satisfaction at the symmetry. Dorchester would be perfect. The Reynolds Financial Community Advisors pilot launched in September 2013, operating out of a modest office above a community bank in Dorchester. Olivia handpicked a small team, Trevor Williams, who had remained her friend and now shared her vision, Maria Gonzalez, a brilliant analyst who had grown up in public housing in East Boston, and Robert Chen, an experienced financial advisor who happened to be Mrs. Chen's nephew and shared her commitment to community service. Their initial marketing was grassroots: financial literacy workshops at local libraries, community centers, and churches. They partnered with local employers to offer retirement planning sessions. They created simplified materials explaining investment concepts in plain language. At first, progress was slow. Many community members were suspicious of Wall Street coming to Dorchester. Others were embarrassed to reveal their financial situations, or worried they didn't have enough money to work with professionals. Olivia's breakthrough came when she convinced her own father to come in for a consultation. "Just hear me out," she pleaded during Sunday dinner. "No obligation, just see what we do." "We don't have investment money," her father protested. You have a 401k from the warehouse, she pointed out, and that CD from when Grandma passed away. Just let me show you how we could make those work harder for you. Reluctantly, he agreed. After their session, during which Olivia had Robert handle the actual advising to maintain professionalism, her father was silent on the drive home. Finally, he spoke. That Chen fellow. He didn't talk down to me. That's our whole approach, Olivia said carefully, and that thing he showed about the fees I'm paying in my 401k. That true? I'm losing that much? Yes, but we can help you reallocate to lower-cost funds with better returns. Her father was quiet again. Then, your mother's cousin Diane. Her husband got laid off last year. They're struggling with decisions about their retirement accounts. Should they talk to your people? Olivia bit back a smile. I think we could help them, yes. Word of mouth spread. Clients began referring family members, neighbors, co-workers. By the end of the first year, the pilot had exceeded its customer acquisition targets by 40%. Catherine was impressed but cautious. Acquisition is one thing. Profitability is another. Check the numbers, Olivia challenged. We're profitable already. Our overhead is low, and our client retention is 94%. The pilot's success continued into its second year. Local press took notice, with the Boston Globe running a feature on the innovative program, bringing Wall Street expertise to Dorchester families. That article caught the attention of state officials, who invited Olivia to participate in a task force on financial literacy in underserved communities. As the 2-year mark approached, Catherine called Olivia to the main office for an evaluation. The executive committee has reviewed your results, Catherine began, her tone giving nothing away. Olivia sat straight, prepared to defend her program. They were impressed, Catherine continued. Very impressed. Your client satisfaction scores are the highest in the firm. Your team's efficiency metrics outperform most of our established divisions. Thank you, Olivia said cautiously. Does that mean the pilot continues? No, Catherine replied. It means the pilot ends and Reynolds Financial Community Advisors becomes a permanent division, with expanded offices in Dorchester, Roxbury, and South Boston. Olivia exhaled slowly. That's amazing news. There's more, Catherine continued. The committee wants to appoint you as Director of Community Banking Initiatives. That's a vice president-level position, Olivia. At 25, you'd be the youngest VP in the firm's history. Olivia sat stunned. I don't know what to say. Say yes, Catherine smiled. You've earned it. Yes, Olivia whispered. Absolutely, yes. One last thing, Catherine added. The board has decided that our community banking initiative deserves more visibility. Starting next quarter, we're rebranding the community offices as Reynolds Morris Financial Services. Reynolds Morris? Olivia repeated, not comprehending. Your name on the door alongside the firm's, Catherine clarified. The board feels it sends an important message about our commitment to community leadership. Tears welled in Olivia's eyes. Catherine, I can't possibly. You can and you will, Catherine interrupted firmly. 5 years ago, you sat in that same chair and told me you wanted to democratize financial expertise. You've not only done that, you've created a profitable business model that serves an overlooked market. Own your success, Olivia. Later that evening, Olivia sat in her car outside her parents' Dorchester apartment, gathering courage. Inside was a bottle of champagne and a folder containing her promotion letter, the plans for the expanded community offices, and a mock-up of the new Reynolds Morris signage. Her phone buzzed with a text from Trevor. Did you tell them yet? About to, she replied. Wish me luck. They'll be proud, he texted back. Anyone would be. Olivia wasn't so sure. 5 years of achievements hadn't fundamentally changed her father's skepticism about her career choice. Even as she'd advanced, at Reynolds, he'd continued to make comments about the instability of the financial sector. The dangers of corporate layoffs, the security of union jobs like his. Taking a deep breath, she gathered her things and headed inside, ready to share news that would finally, perhaps, make her father believe that she had beaten the odds he'd been so certain would defeat her. Summer 2018. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the grand opening of the Reynolds Morris Financial Center. Applause rippled through the crowd gathered outside the newly renovated building in downtown Dorchester. What had once been a neglected municipal structure was now a gleaming four-story financial hub, its glass and brick facade a bold statement of investment in a neighborhood long overlooked by financial institutions. Olivia Morris, now 28, an executive vice president of community banking at Reynolds Financial Group, stood alongside Catherine Harrington and several board members. The 5 years since her promotion had been a whirlwind of growth and innovation. What had begun as a small pilot program had evolved into a nationally recognized model for community-focused financial services. The mayor of Boston stepped forward to cut the ceremonial ribbon. "This center represents more than just banking services," he announced. "It represents opportunity, education, and economic empowerment for our communities." As the ribbon fell and the crowd cheered, Olivia caught sight of her parents in the audience. Her mother beamed with undisguised pride. Even her father's typically stoic expression had softened into something approaching admiration. Later, as guests toured the facility, Olivia guided her parents through the various departments: investment services, small business lending, financial, education classrooms, and a state-of-the-art community meeting space available free of charge to local organizations. "This whole floor is dedicated to financial literacy," she explained, showing them a classroom equipped with technology for teaching everything from basic budgeting to advanced investment strategies. "We offer free workshops every week." "Your name is everywhere," her mother marveled, touching a plaque outside one of the classrooms. "Reynolds comes first," Olivia pointed out modestly. "But yours is right after it," her father noted, his voice gruff, but not unkind. That means something. It was as close to explicit approval as he had ever come. Olivia felt a warmth spread through her chest. "The warehouse finally laid me off last month," he said abruptly, changing the subject. 32 years, and they gave me 2 weeks' notice." "Oh, Tom," her mother sighed. "We agreed not to bring that up today." "No, it's relevant," he insisted, turning to Olivia. "Your mother and we need to figure out what to do with my retirement account and severance. We've been putting it off because, well," he looked uncomfortable. "Financial stuff was always intimidating," her mother supplied. "Yeah, that." He cleared his throat. "Anyway, we were wondering if maybe someone here could help us sort it out. Not you. That would be weird. But someone you trust." Olivia blinked back sudden tears. "Of course, Dad. I have just the person." She introduced them to Robert Chen, now senior advisor for retirement planning, who arranged to meet with them the following week. As they prepared to leave, her father hesitated. "That first night, when you told us you wanted to go into banking, I said some things. Dad, you don't have to— No, I need to say this." He looked uncomfortable but determined. "I was wrong, Livy. I didn't believe this was possible for someone like you, like us. I was trying to protect you from disappointment, but really, I was just limiting you." Olivia swallowed hard. "You were worried. I understand that now. Still." He gestured at the building around them. "You did this despite us, not because of us. I'm sorry for that." "Not despite you," Olivia corrected gently. "Everything I've built here, making financial services accessible, creating educational programs, it all comes from growing up watching you and Mom struggle with a system that wasn't designed for working families. In a way, I built this because of you." Her father's eyes glistened. He pulled her into a gruff embrace. "Proud of you, kid," he murmured. "Always knew you were special." Olivia didn't correct the revisionist history. Some healing required a little rewriting of the past. The Reynolds Morris Financial Center quickly became a cornerstone of economic revitalization in Dorchester. Small businesses that had long been denied capital from traditional banks found attentive partners at Reynolds Morris. Families who had never considered investing began building wealth through accessible programs designed for their needs and comfort levels. 6 months after the center opened, Olivia received an unexpected call from the Office of the Secretary of the Treasury. They were forming a task force on financial inclusion and wanted her to serve as a key advisor. "It's a tremendous opportunity," Catherine noted when Olivia shared the news, "and well-deserved recognition for what you've built." "It would mean splitting my time between Boston and Washington," Olivia said, concerned. "I don't want to lose focus on our core work here." "Your team is strong," Catherine reassured her. "And this appointment raises the profile of our entire community banking initiative. The board will support it." Indeed, the board not only supported her role on the task force, but also approved an expansion of the Reynolds Morris model to 3 additional cities: Chicago, Atlanta, and Philadelphia. By 2020, what had begun as a small pilot program in Dorchester had evolved into a national model for community-focused financial services. Throughout this period of phenomenal growth, Olivia maintained her commitment to hands-on involvement. She personally taught financial literacy workshops at high schools in underserved communities. She mentored promising students from backgrounds similar to her own. She established a scholarship program that identified talented young people from working-class families and supported them through college and into financial careers. Not every initiative succeeded. A mobile banking program aimed at rural communities struggled with technology limitations. A partnership with a national retail chain dissolved amid corporate restructuring. These setbacks tested Olivia, but never derailed her larger vision. "Failure is data," she often told her team. "We learn, we adjust, we improve." In early 2023, as Olivia approached her 15-year anniversary with Reynolds Financial, Catherine announced her intention to retire. "The board has asked me to recommend my successor as Chief Strategy Officer," she informed Olivia over lunch. "I've put forward your name." Olivia set down her fork in surprise. "That's a C-suite position." "Indeed it is," Catherine agreed mildly. "You'd be the first woman and the youngest person ever to hold it at Reynolds." "What about community banking?" Olivia asked, concerned about the division she had built from nothing. "You'd maintain oversight while grooming a successor," Catherine explained. "And in truth, your community banking model has influenced every division of Reynolds. We're no longer just applying it in select neighborhoods. We're integrating those principles across our entire operation." "That was always the goal," Olivia acknowledged. "To change the culture of financial services, not just create a niche offering. Precisely why you're ready for this role." Catherine studied her protégé with evident pride. "When we met, you were an ambitious but uncertain student who wanted to democratize financial expertise. Now you're reshaping the industry. The boardroom should be your next arena." The transition to Chief Strategy Officer occurred simultaneously with Reynolds Financial's ambitious headquarters expansion. The firm had acquired a prominent building in downtown Boston and was undertaking extensive renovations to create a flagship location that would embody the company's evolution under leaders like Catherine and Olivia. As the construction progressed through 2023 and into early 2024, Olivia found herself increasingly involved in decisions ranging from sustainability features to community access spaces within the new headquarters. This was to be more than a typical corporate office. It would include public financial education facilities, community meeting rooms, and a small business incubator space. "This building should reflect our values," Olivia insisted during planning meetings. "Not just house our executives and look impressive." "You're transforming corporate architecture the same way you transformed banking," Trevor commented during a site tour. Now a senior vice president himself, he had remained one of Olivia's closest allies throughout her ascent. Real change happens at all levels, she replied, studying the blueprints. Physical spaces shape behavior and culture. We can't preach financial inclusion while maintaining exclusionary environments. The grand opening of the Reynolds Financial headquarters was scheduled for April 2024, coinciding with Financial Literacy Month, a deliberate choice to emphasize the firm's commitment to education and accessibility. As the date approached, the CEO, William Parker, called Olivia into his office for what he described as a strategic discussion. Parker had witnessed Olivia's rise through the company and had become an enthusiastic supporter of her initiatives after seeing their financial success. "The board and I have been discussing the building dedication," he began, gesturing for her to sit. "Traditionally, our headquarters would simply carry the Reynolds name." Olivia nodded, unsure where this was heading. "However," he continued, "there's strong consensus that this building represents a new chapter for the firm, one in which your vision has been instrumental." He slid a rendering across the desk. Olivia's breath caught as she saw the proposed signage for the main entrance, Reynolds Financial Group in large letters, with a smaller but equally prominent plate below it reading, Morris Tower. "The board is unanimous," Parker said as Olivia stared at the image. "This building represents your impact on Reynolds as much as Reynolds' century-old legacy." I don't know what to say," Olivia managed, genuinely stunned. "Say you accept the recognition you've earned," Parker replied with a smile reminiscent of Catherine's directness. "Your name on this building tells every young person from a neighborhood like Dorchester that there's a place for them in finance, if they're willing to work for it." The April dedication ceremony drew financial leaders from across the country, along with community advocates, educators, and politicians. The atrium of the new headquarters was filled to capacity as Parker gave his opening remarks. "Today we dedicate not just a building, but a vision," he declared. 15 years ago, a young woman from Dorchester believed banking could serve everyone with dignity and respect, regardless of their wealth or background. Today, that vision has transformed not only Reynolds Financial, but the industry itself. He gestured toward the unveiled signage displaying both the Reynolds and Morris names. "Morris Tower will stand as a testament to what becomes possible when we open doors instead of creating barriers." The crowd applauded as Olivia took the podium, her poised exterior masking the emotional weight of the moment. "When I was 18, she began. "Growing up not far from here, I told my parents I wanted to work in finance. They were concerned. Not because they didn't believe in me, but because they didn't believe the financial world would welcome someone like me." She paused, glancing at her parents in the front row. Her father's eyes glistened with uncharacteristic emotion. In many ways, they were right to worry. The path wasn't easy or straight. But what I discovered along the way was that the greatest barriers often exist in our minds rather than in reality. Yes, systemic obstacles are real, but so is the power of persistence, innovation, and refusing to accept that things must remain as they've always been. She gestured to the diverse crowd before her. "Look around this room. The future of finance isn't exclusivity, it's inclusion. It isn't complexity designed to intimidate, it's clarity designed to empower. It isn't serving only the wealthy, it's creating wealth across all communities." The applause was thunderous as she concluded. As she stepped away from the podium, her father embraced her with unusual demonstrativeness. "Your name on a building downtown," he whispered, his voice thick. "I guess you showed me, huh?" Olivia smiled through her own tears. "I guess I did." The key. Months following the dedication were a whirlwind of activity as the new headquarters became fully operational, and Reynolds Morris community centers continued expanding across the country. Olivia divided her time between strategic leadership at the corporate level and maintaining personal connections with community initiatives. Fall 2024 brought dramatic changes to the economic landscape. Market volatility, rising interest rates, and housing pressures created financial stress for many working Americans. The Morris family was not immune. Olivia's father's retirement funds weren't stretching as far as hoped, and her parents had begun discussing whether they could afford to keep their home. One evening in October, Olivia received a call from Robert. "Chen, your parents came in for their quarterly review today," he informed her, his tone professional but concerned. "How are they doing?" Olivia asked, mindful of maintaining appropriate boundaries despite her personal interest. "They're facing some challenges," Robert replied carefully. "Your father's pension hasn't kept pace with inflation, and they've had some unexpected medical expenses. They're considering a second mortgage to bridge the gap." Olivia sighed. Her parents had consistently refused her offers of financial assistance, insisting on maintaining their independence. "They've asked to explore loan options," Robert continued. "I've scheduled them for an appointment with our mortgage division next week at the main office." "The headquarters?" Olivia clarified, surprise evident in her voice. Her parents typically visited only the Dorchester Center. "Yes," Robert confirmed. "The specialized lending team is based there now." After ending the call, Olivia sat quietly in her office, considering the situation. Her parents' pride had always been a complex force in their relationship, sometimes limiting, sometimes strengthening. She knew better than to interfere directly with their financial decisions, yet she couldn't help feeling concerned. She made a note to ensure she was out of the office during their appointment time. The last thing they needed was to feel her watching over their financial decisions, potentially complicating an already stressful situation. The following Wednesday, Tom and Linda Morris arrived at the imposing Reynolds Financial headquarters. In downtown Boston, loan application documents clutched tightly in hand. They had visited the Dorchester Center many times, but this marked their first visit to the corporate headquarters. As they stepped through the revolving doors into the soaring atrium, Linda gasped softly at the grandeur of the space. Marble floors, a living wall of plants spanning 3 stories, and a massive art installation celebrating Boston's diverse communities dominated the entrance. Tom craned his neck, taking in the scale of the building. His eyes traveled upward, past the mezzanine levels, until they reached the ceiling far above. Then, as he lowered his gaze, something caught his attention. There, mounted prominently above the main entrance they had just passed through, were 2 names, Reynolds Financial Group, and below it, in equally substantial lettering, Morris Tower. His steps faltered as comprehension dawned. Linda followed his gaze, her hand flying to her mouth. "Tom," she whispered. "Is that—" Before he could answer, the receptionist approached. "Welcome to Reynolds Financial. How may I help you today?" Tom cleared his throat, suddenly emotional. "We have an appointment to discuss a loan application." The receptionist smiled professionally. "Your names, please?" "Morris," Tom replied, a new note of pride in his voice. "Tom and Linda Morris." As the receptionist checked her system, Tom and Linda exchanged meaningful glances. Their daughter's name on this building, their last name, once so ordinary, now displayed prominently on one of Boston's premier financial institutions. "Mr. and Mrs. Morris? Perfect. Please have a seat. Ms. Reynolds will be with you shortly." The couple froze. "Did you say Reynolds?" Tom asked, his face suddenly pale. Before the receptionist could respond, the elevator doors opened and out walked a confident woman in her mid-30s, impeccably dressed in a tailored navy suit. Her presence commanded attention as she crossed the lobby. The couple stared in disbelief. "It couldn't be Olivia?" Linda whispered, her voice barely audible. Their daughter turned, her expression shifting from professional detachment to shock, as she recognized her parents standing in the lobby of her bank. In that moment, as their eyes met across the polished marble floor, 15 years of history hung in the air between them, from a kitchen table covered in college brochures to a tower bearing their shared name. Tom Morris looked up once more at the letters spelling out Morris above the doorway, then back at his daughter who now stood before them. living proof that she had indeed done exactly what he'd once told her was impossible. "Well," he said finally, his voice rough with emotion, "I guess you showed us all." Olivia smiled, tears welling in her eyes. "I guess I did, Dad. I guess I did. Spring, 2025. You weren't supposed to be here today," Linda Morris said as they sat in a private meeting room adjacent to the lobby. The loan application papers lay temporarily forgotten on the polished conference table. "And you weren't supposed to be applying for a second mortgage without talking to me first," Olivia countered, though her tone remained gentle. Tom shifted uncomfortably in his chair. "We didn't want to burden you with our problems. You have enough on your plate running this place." "Dad, I'm your daughter before I'm an executive," Olivia reminded him. "Your problems are my problems." "That's exactly what we were trying to avoid," her mother explained. "You've already done so much." "Let me stop you right there," Olivia interjected. "Whatever you're about to say, whatever solution you're thinking of rejecting because of pride, just remember where we're sitting right now." She gestured toward the window where the Morris Tower sign was clearly visible in the reflection. "This building, that name, exists because you raised me to work hard and to care about people who struggle. If you won't let me help my own parents when they need it, what was the point of all this?" Her father stared at his calloused hands, a lifetime of physical labor etched into every line and scar. "There's helping, and then there's handouts. We don't want charity, not even from our daughter." "Who said anything about charity?" Olivia asked. She opened a folder and pushed it across the table. "This is a financial strategy, not a handout." Tom and Linda leaned forward, examining the documents. Instead of a traditional second mortgage application, they found a comprehensive financial plan, a restructuring of their existing mortgage at a significantly lower interest rate, an optimization of Tom's pension distributions, and a healthcare expense management strategy that would dramatically reduce their monthly medical costs. "This isn't about me giving you money," Olivia explained. "It's about using financial expertise, the very expertise I've built my career on, to ensure you're not paying more than necessary or making decisions based on incomplete information." Her father studied the numbers with narrow-eyed concentration, his expression gradually shifting from skepticism to surprise. "These savings, they're just from restructuring what we already have?" "Mostly," Olivia nodded. "Though I did include an option for a reverse mortgage if you want to stay in the house long term. It would allow you to tap into your home equity without monthly payments." "I've heard about those," Tom said warily. "Aren't they risky?" "They can be, through the wrong lenders or without proper advising. But not through us, and not with me watching the details." She pointed to a specific section of the document. "Read the fine print. These terms are better than anything you'd find elsewhere." Linda touched her husband's arm. "Tom, maybe we should consider this. It's not charity if it's just better financial management." He nodded slowly, the resistance in his posture gradually melting. "I suppose if we're sitting in a building with our name on it, we should at least benefit from the expertise inside it." Olivia smiled. "That's all I'm asking." After finalizing the details with a senior financial advisor, Olivia deliberately removed herself from the formal process to maintain appropriate boundaries. Her parents prepared to leave. In the lobby, her father paused, looking around at the bustling activity, staff members from diverse backgrounds assisting clients, interactive, financial education kiosks available to the public, a community meeting in progress in the visible mezzanine level. "You really built all this," he said, not quite a question. "With a lot of help," Olivia acknowledged. "Catherine saw potential in me when I was just a community college student. Trevor believed in the vision when we were starting the pilot program. Robert and Maria helped create the service models. It was never just me. But it was your vision," her mother pointed out, "your stubborn determination." "Wonder where I got that from," Olivia replied with a meaningful glance at her father. He chuckled. "Fair enough." As they walked toward the exit, Her father stopped suddenly. That night, when you told us you wanted to go into banking, I said, some cruel things. Dad, we've been through this. No, let me finish, he insisted. I told you that you weren't special, that nobody is, that life isn't about following dreams. It's about surviving. His voice grew husky with emotion. I was wrong, Livy. You proved me wrong about all of it. Olivia felt her throat tighten. The thing is, Dad, in some ways you were right. I'm not inherently more special than anyone else from our neighborhood. I just got opportunities they didn't. A mentor who believed in me, scholarships, internships. She gestured around the lobby. That's why this place exists the way it does, open, accessible, with educational resources for everyone, because the talent and potential are out there in every community. The financial world just wasn't designed to find it. Her father nodded. Slowly. Until you redesigned it. Starting to, she corrected with a smile. As her parents departed, Olivia found herself reflecting on the journey that had brought her to this moment. The scared but determined 18-year-old with community college brochures spread across the kitchen table seemed both intimately familiar and impossibly distant. That evening, as she prepared for an industry leadership dinner, Olivia received a text from an unknown number. It contained only an address in Dorchester and a time 7:30 p.m. the following evening. The message was signed simply, Mrs. Chen. Olivia smiled, immediately recognizing the name of the librarian who had encouraged her when she most needed it. They had lost touch over the years as Mrs. Chen retired and moved to be closer to her grandchildren. The address wasn't the library, but Olivia made a note to cancel her existing plans and attend whatever this mysterious invitation entailed. The following evening, she drove to the address, a community center not far from her old neighborhood. As she approached the entrance, she heard the buzz of many voices. Inside, she discovered a packed room of teenagers and young adults, many dressed in business casual attire, clearly selected with care. Mrs. Chen, now in her 70s but still, radiating the same quiet authority, greeted her with a warm hug. What is all this? Olivia asked, taking in the scene. Dorchester Future Financial Leaders, Mrs. Chen explained. A program I started 3 years ago. Young people from the neighborhood who are interested in business and finance. They meet weekly for mentorship and education. Olivia looked around with growing comprehension. And you want me to speak to them? Mrs. Chen laughed. I want them to meet you. There's a difference. These kids have heard about Olivia Morris, the banking executive. Tonight, I want them to hear from Livy from Dorchester, who sat in my library crying because her parents didn't believe in her dreams. Olivia felt a flash of vulnerability. That's a pretty raw version of the story. Raw is what they need, Mrs. Chen said firmly. These young people don't need another polished executive telling them about meritocracy. They need someone who understands their specific struggles and can show them a way through. As Mrs. Chen introduced her to the group, Olivia scanned the faces before her, ranging from 16 to early 20s, predominantly from working-class backgrounds, many likely first-generation college students if they made it that far. She saw reflections of her younger self in their expressions, determination mixed with uncertainty, ambition tempered by pragmatism. Most of you know the headline version of my story, she began. Local girl makes good, ends up with her name on a building downtown. But headlines skip the struggle, the doubt, the failures along the way. She set aside her prepared remarks and instead told them the unvarnished truth about the kitchen table arguments, the crushing rejection from her dream school, the nights, working double shifts while studying for exams, the code switching required to navigate elite spaces, the projects that failed despite her best efforts. Success isn't a straight line, she told them. It's not about never failing. It's about refusing to accept any single failure as the end of your story. After her talk, they surrounded her with questions, specific, practical questions about Community college pathways, scholarship applications, interview techniques, professional networking as an outsider. She answered each one honestly, without corporate platitudes or oversimplification. As the evening concluded, a girl of about 17 approached her somewhat shyly. "My dad says the same things your dad said to you," she admitted quietly. "That finance is for rich kids, not for people like us from Mattapan." Olivia recognized the neighboring community, similar to Dorchester in its working-class roots and economic challenges. "What's your name?" she asked. "Jasmine Williams." "Well, Jasmine, let me tell you something I wish someone had told me at your age. Parents speak from their own experiences and fears. When they say something isn't possible, often what they mean is they don't know the path to make it possible." The girl nodded thoughtfully. "But how do you keep believing in yourself when nobody else does? You find the people who do believe in you," Olivia said, glancing toward Mrs. Chen, who was chatting with other students. "Sometimes they're in unexpected places, a school counselor, a teacher, a librarian. And you let their belief carry you until your achievements are loud enough to silence the doubts." She took out a business card and wrote her personal email on the back. "The Reynolds Morris Financial Center in Dorchester has a summer internship program for high school students. The application deadline is next month. If you're interested, send me your application directly." Jasmine's eyes widened. "Really?" "Really," Olivia confirmed. "No guarantees. You'll need to earn it on your own merits, but I'll make sure your application gets a fair review." After the event, Mrs. Chen walked her to her car. "Thank you for coming," the older woman said. "It means more than you know." "Thank you for not forgetting me," Olivia replied. "All those years ago in the library, you were the first person who really heard me." Mrs. Chen smiled. "I recognized something in you, the same thing I see in some of these young people tonight. A determination that burns brighter than the circumstances trying to extinguish it." Olivia glanced back at the community center. "Send me their information. I want to create a formal mentorship program connecting them with professionals at Reynolds who came from similar backgrounds." "Already planning to expand your influence?" Mrs. Chen teased. "Trying to replicate what you did for me," Olivia corrected. "One person who believes can change everything." The next morning, Olivia arrived at her office earlier than usual, energized by the previous evening's interactions. She drafted a proposal for a structured mentorship initiative that would link Reynolds Morris employees with the Dorchester Future Financial Leaders Program and similar groups across the city. Catherine, though retired from her executive role, still served on the board and had become a close friend. She had arranged to meet Olivia for coffee that morning, arriving precisely on time as always. "You seem particularly focused today," she observed as Olivia briefly outlined the mentorship proposal. "What sparked this?" Olivia described the community center gathering and her conversation with Jasmine. "It made me realize we've created pathways, but we haven't built enough bridges to help people find those pathways." Catherine nodded thoughtfully. "You know, when I first met you, I saw potential. What I didn't anticipate was how thoroughly you would transform not just your own circumstances, but the entire institutional framework." "That's a bit grandiose," Olivia demurred. "Is it?" Catherine challenged. "Reynolds was a traditional financial institution with traditional clients until you came along. Now we're a case study at Harvard Business School on inclusive financial models. That's not an incremental change, Olivia. That's a transformation." Before Olivia could respond, her assistant interrupted with an urgent message. The CEO needed her in the executive conference room immediately. Something about a major acquisition opportunity. As she excused herself, Catherine touched her arm. "Whatever this is about, remember, you've earned your seat at that table. Never doubt that." The conference room was filled with senior executives when Olivia arrived. CEO William Parker stood at the head of the table, his expression unusually animated. "Perfect timing, Olivia," he said as she took her seat. We've just received word that Meridian Financial is considering acquisition offers. A ripple of surprised murmurs circulated through the room. Meridian was one of the oldest and most established financial institutions in New England, with a prestigious client roster and significant assets under management. This is a once-in-a-generation opportunity, Parker continued. Meridian's wealth management division would integrate perfectly with our high-net-worth services, while their commercial banking infrastructure would support our expansion plans. As the discussion progressed, executives analyzed potential synergies, regulatory hurdles, and financial projections. Olivia listened carefully, noting that something significant was missing from the conversation. "What about cultural alignment?" she finally asked during a pause. Meridian is known for its exclusivity and traditional approach. We've built Reynolds on increasing accessibility and modernizing financial services. Parker frowned slightly. This is primarily a business decision, Olivia. Cultural elements can be addressed during integration. With respect, she persisted, culture isn't a secondary consideration. It's fundamental to our success model. She pulled up figures on her tablet. Our growth over the past decade has consistently outpaced traditional firms, precisely because we've approached financial services differently. Absorbing Meridian's old guard philosophy could undermine what makes us distinctive. The chief financial officer leaned forward. She has a point, Bill. Our community banking model generates returns that consistently exceed industry averages. Meridian's wealth division is prestigious but ultimately less profitable than our innovative approaches. A thoughtful silence fell over the room as executives reconsidered the opportunity through this lens. "What do you propose?" Parker asked Olivia directly. "A selective acquisition," she replied. "Target specific divisions of Meridian that complement our strategy rather than absorbing the entire institution. And make cultural evolution a non-negotiable component of the deal. Their teams adopt our approach, not vice versa." The meeting extended for hours as they refined this strategy. By its conclusion, a consensus had formed around Olivia's perspective, with a working group established to develop a targeted acquisition proposal. As executives filed out, Parker held Olivia back. That was impressive. Most people in that room were ready to pursue Meridian regardless of the cultural implications. Because Meridian represents the old definition of success in our industry, Olivia noted. But that definition is changing. Parker nodded slowly. You've changed it. When Catherine first championed you for the executive track, there were skeptics. Not about your intelligence or work ethic, but about whether your background would be a limitation in connecting with traditional clients and partners. Olivia raised an eyebrow. And now? Now your background is recognized as your greatest strength, he said simply. You understand markets and clients that traditional bankers cannot access. You see opportunities where others see risk. He glanced out the window at the Boston skyline. The board is discussing succession planning. I'll be retiring within 2 years. Olivia processed this information carefully, understanding its implications. That's relatively soon. The financial world is changing rapidly. Reynolds needs leadership that understands both traditional banking and emerging models. He met her gaze directly. Leadership that can bridge existing systems and future possibilities. The suggestion hung in the air between them, not explicit, but unmistakable. From community college student to potential CEO of one of Boston's premier financial institutions in less than 20 years. Later that evening, as Olivia drove through Dorchester on her way home, she took a detour past her parents' apartment building. The modest structure where she had grown up looked smaller than she remembered, yet it remained the foundation from which everything else had grown. Her phone buzzed with a text from Jasmine Williams. Ms. Morris, I'm working on my internship. Application. Thank you for believing in me. Olivia smiled, thinking of Mrs. Chen, of Catherine, of all the people who had formed links in a chain of opportunity extending from that discouraged 18-year-old to the poised executive she had become, and now extending further to Jasmine and countless others. She typed a reply. Belief isn't magic, Jasmine. It's recognition. Someone once recognized potential in me that I couldn't fully see in myself. Now, I recognize it in you. As she drove past the illuminated sign of the Reynolds Morris Financial Center, Olivia reflected on the journey that had brought her from a kitchen table covered with community college brochures to the executive suite of Morris Tower. What had begun as a personal ambition had evolved into something far more meaningful, a transformation not just of her own circumstances, but of the systems and institutions that had once seemed impenetrable. Her father's words from years ago echoed in her memory. People like us don't become bankers. He had been describing the world as it was, a world of limited opportunities and narrowly defined success. But Olivia hadn't accepted that world. She had reimagined it, rebuilt it, and in doing so, created space for others to follow. Not through the same barriers she had faced, but through the doors she had opened. Her name on the building wasn't just a personal triumph. It was a signal to every young person from Dorchester, Mattapan, Roxbury, and beyond, visible proof that the definition of success was no longer controlled by those who had always held it. It was changing, one name at a time. Winter 2027 snow fell, gently outside the windows of the Reynolds Financial Boardroom, coating the Boston skyline in pristine white. Inside, the atmosphere was charged with anticipation as board members took their seats around the polished mahogany table. Olivia Morris sat alone in her office one floor below, taking a moment of quiet reflection before the meeting that would determine the next chapter of her career. At 37, she had accomplished more than most executives achieve in a lifetime. The community banking model she had pioneered now operated in 23 cities across the country. The financial literacy curriculum she had developed was being taught in high schools nationwide. The mentorship program connecting students from underserved communities with financial professionals had expanded to include over 5,000 participants. And today, the board would vote on her nomination to become the next CEO of Reynolds Financial Group. A soft knock at her door interrupted her thoughts. Catherine Harrington entered, elegant as always despite the years of retirement. "Ready?" she asked simply. "As I'll ever be," Olivia replied, rising from her chair. Catherine studied her former protégé, now colleague and friend. "You know, when you walked into that scholarship interview 17 years ago, I never imagined this moment." "Neither did I," Olivia admitted. "I just wanted to prove my father wrong." "And now?" "Now I want to prove him right." At Catherine's questioning look, she explained, "The man he's become, the one who believes anything is possible with the right support and opportunity. That's the vision worth fighting for." Catherine nodded approvingly. "Then let's not keep the board waiting." The boardroom fell silent as Olivia entered. 12 faces turned toward her, some she had worked with for years, others newer additions, representing the evolving composition of Reynolds's leadership. William Parker, the outgoing CEO, nodded encouragingly from his position at the head of the table. "Ms. Morris," the chairwoman began formally, "the board has completed its deliberations regarding succession planning. Before we share our decision, we would like to hear your vision for the future of Reynolds Financial Group." Olivia had prepared extensively for this moment, crafting a presentation that balanced innovation with prudent growth, technology with human connection. Yet standing before them, she set aside her prepared remarks. "When I first joined Reynolds, we were a traditional financial institution serving traditional clients," she began. "Our success was measured by assets under management and profit margins. Those metrics matter, they always will, but they're incomplete measures of what we can accomplish." She moved to the window, gesturing toward the city below. "Out there are communities that have historically been excluded from financial prosperity. Not because they lack ability or ambition, but because the system wasn't designed with them in mind. For 17 years, we've been redesigning that system, creating models that generate both financial returns and social impact. Turning back to the board, she continued, "My vision isn't about abandoning our traditional strengths. It's about leveraging them to create a more inclusive financial ecosystem, one where Reynolds serves clients across the economic spectrum with the same excellence, the same respect, the same commitment to their financial well-being." The chairwoman leaned forward. "And how does this approach affect our bottom line?" "Our shareholders expect competitive returns." "They'll get them," Olivia replied confidently. "Our community banking division has outperformed traditional wealth management in percentage returns for 9 consecutive quarters. Our client retention rates across all divisions exceed industry averages by 23%. Our talent pipeline is stronger than ever, with top graduates choosing Reynolds over Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley specifically because of our innovative approach." She placed a document on the table. "This isn't idealism. It's sound business strategy backed by clear metrics. When we create prosperity in previously underserved communities, we create new markets, new clients, and new growth opportunities." The board members exchanged glances, some nodding appreciatively, others maintaining poker faces. "Thank you, Ms. Morris," the chairwoman said finally. "Would you please step outside while we complete our vote?" The 15 minutes Olivia waited felt eternal. When she was finally called back in, she steeled herself for either outcome. The chairwoman's expression gave nothing away as she spoke. "The board has voted unanimously to appoint you as the next chief executive officer of Reynolds Financial Group, effective upon William's retirement next quarter." Relief and gratitude washed over Olivia, but she maintained her professional composure as congratulations circulated around the table. "There's one additional matter," the chairwoman continued once the moment had passed. "Given your unique contributions to Reynolds and the communities we serve, the board proposes a modification to our corporate identity." She slid a document across the table. Olivia looked down to see a rendering of a new corporate logo and signage. Reynolds Morris Financial Group. "We believe this change reflects the evolution of our institution under your leadership," the chairwoman explained. "Not just your name on a building, but integrated into our very identity." Olivia stared at the image, momentarily speechless. I'm honored, but this is unprecedented." William Parker spoke up. "So was your community banking model. So was your approach to financial literacy. So is much of what you've accomplished here. It seems fitting that our corporate identity should reflect that transformation." The boardroom emptied gradually as members offered individual congratulations. Finally, only Catherine remained, watching Olivia as she continued to study the proposed new identity. "Having second thoughts?" Catherine asked. "Processing the magnitude," Olivia corrected. "When I was 18, sitting at that kitchen table, with community college brochures, this would have been unimaginable. For most people, it still is," Catherine noted. "That's why it matters so much." Later that evening, Olivia drove to her parents' home in Dorchester, not the apartment where she had grown up, but a comfortable single-family house they had purchased 2 years earlier with her guidance on securing an advantageous mortgage. The financial strategy she had created for them had worked better than expected. By optimizing her father's pension, restructuring their debt, and creating a modest investment portfolio, they had achieved financial stability that once seemed impossible. "CEO!" her mother exclaimed when Olivia shared the news over dinner. "Oh, Livy, that's wonderful." Her father, now retired and more openly affectionate than in her youth, squeezed her shoulder with pride. "Always knew you had it in you," he said, both of them silently acknowledging the revision of history in that statement. "There's more," Olivia continued, showing them the rendering of the new corporate identity. Her mother's hand flew to her mouth. "They're changing the company name? For you?" "With me," Olivia corrected. "It's not just about me. It's about what the name has come to represent. A different approach to finance. one that includes communities like ours. Her father studied the image with uncharacteristic emotion in his eyes. Morris, right there alongside Reynolds. Our family name, Olivia agreed. From a warehouse time card to a financial institution. That's quite a journey, Dad. He nodded slowly. You know, when you were little, maybe 6 or 7, your kindergarten teacher told us you had a special spark, said you asked questions no one your age should think to ask, that you saw connections others missed. Olivia listened, surprised by this previously unshared memory. I didn't believe her, he continued. Not because I didn't think you were smart, but because I didn't think being smart mattered much for kids from neighborhoods like ours. The system didn't care about sparks and potential. It cared about where you came from, who your parents knew, what opportunities you had access to. He looked up from the image to meet her gaze directly. You didn't just prove me wrong about yourself, Livy. You proved me wrong about the whole system. You showed it could be different. The following morning, Olivia arrived at her office to find an unexpected visitor waiting. Jasmine Williams, now 19 and in her sophomore year at Northeastern University. After that first encounter at Mrs. Chen's program, Jasmine had indeed applied for and received the Reynolds Morris internship. Her performance had been stellar, earning her a college scholarship through the program Olivia had established. She now worked part-time at the Dorchester Financial Center while pursuing her degree. Ms. Williams, Olivia greeted her warmly. To what do I owe this surprise? I wanted to congratulate you in person, Jasmine explained. Mrs. Chen told me about the CEO appointment and the name change. News travels fast, Olivia noted with a smile. In Dorchester? Always has. Jasmine handed her a small gift bag. This is from all of us, the Dorchester future financial leaders. Inside, Olivia found a framed photograph of the current group. 37 young people from Dorchester, Mattapan, Roxbury, and other Boston neighborhoods traditionally underrepresented in finance. They stood on the steps of the Reynolds Morris Financial Center, poised and professional in business attire. Turn it over, Jasmine prompted. On the back, each student had signed their name alongside a brief note. The inscriptions brought tears to Olivia's eyes. You showed us it's possible. Thank you for opening the door. From one Dorchester kid to another, you're my blueprint. Because of you, I believe. They wanted you to know the impact you've had, Jasmine said quietly. Not just with buildings and programs, but with proof. Actual living proof that the dream isn't crazy. Olivia carefully set the frame on her desk, positioning it where she would see it daily. Thank you for bringing this. It means more than any board vote. After Jasmine left, Olivia found herself reflecting on the chain of influence that had brought her to this moment. Mrs. Chen recognizing potential in a discouraged teenager. Catherine opening doors that seemed permanently closed. Trevor believing in her vision for community banking. Her parents gradually shifting from doubt to pride, each link essential, each connection creating possibility where none had existed before. Her assistant interrupted these reflections with news that the press release announcing her appointment and the corporate rebranding had generated significant media interest. Interview requests were pouring in, along with invitations to speak at universities, financial conferences, and community events. Should I start scheduling these for after the official transition? Her assistant asked. Yes, but with one exception, Olivia replied. There's a financial literacy workshop at Dorchester High School next week. Make room for that one now. The following Tuesday, Olivia returned to her alma mater. As she walked the familiar hallways, memories surfaced of the uncertain teenager she had been, studying with borrowed textbooks, applying for scholarships with trembling hands, defending her ambitions against well-meaning but limiting advice. The classroom was filled beyond capacity. Students sat at desks, stood along walls, and crowded the doorway. Their faces reflected the diversity of Boston's working-class neighborhoods, the future that traditional financial institutions had historically overlooked. For 2 hours, Olivia spoke not as an executive, but as one of them, sharing practical, financial knowledge, answering questions about educational pathways, discussing barriers and how to overcome them. She was honest about challenges without diminishing hope, realistic about obstacles without accepting them as permanent. As the session concluded, a girl in the back raised her hand. Everyone says networking is important in finance, but how do you network when you don't know anyone in the industry? Great question, Olivia replied. First, you find one person who believes in your potential, a teacher, a librarian, a mentor through a community program. She smiled at the memory of Mrs. Chen. That person connects you to others, and gradually you build your own network based on authentic relationships rather than family connections. She gestured around the classroom. Starting today, each of you has at least one connection in finance. Me. My email is on the handout you received. Use it. I can't promise immediate responses given my schedule, but I can promise I'll read every message and do my best to help where I can. The students exchanged glances of surprise and cautious excitement. I'm serious, Olivia emphasized. The system changes when people inside it reach back to bring others forward. That's how doors open that once seemed locked. After the workshop, Olivia walked through her old neighborhood, eventually finding herself outside the public library where Mrs. Chen had once shelved books while dispensing life-changing wisdom. The building had been renovated since her youth, now featuring a modern computer lab and expanded educational resources. A plaque near the entrance caught her attention. Reynolds Morris Financial Literacy Center. She had approved the funding for this renovation 3 years earlier, but hadn't visited since its completion. Stepping inside, she discovered a dedicated space where community members could access financial education, assistance with loan applications, retirement planning, and investment guidance, all provided free of charge. A retired banker volunteered his expertise at a consultation table. College students offered homework help in the adjacent study area. Teens practiced professional skills in a mock interview space. This, Olivia realized, was the true meaning of success. Not just her name on buildings or her position on an organizational chart, but the tangible impact on lives and communities. The creation of spaces where potential could be recognized, nurtured, and fulfilled. As she prepared to leave, her phone buzzed with a text from Catherine. Congratulations again, CEO. Dinner soon to celebrate? Olivia smiled as she typed her response. Absolutely, and I want to discuss expanding our mentorship program nationally. Even as she achieved the summit of conventional success, Olivia was already envisioning the next horizon, widening the path further, reaching more communities, transforming more lives. The journey that had begun with defiance, "Watch me," whispered, to parents who didn't believe, had evolved into something far more profound, a reimagining of what was possible, not just for one determined girl from Dorchester, but for the countless others who would follow the trail she had blazed. Her name on the building wasn't the end of the story. It was just the beginning. Looking for more? We've got 2 amazing stories ready for you right on screen. If this one touched you, these are absolutely worth your time. Click to watch them now. And hey, subscribe and hit that bell to never miss our latest uploads.